The stars looked different through the viewing screen of the alien ship. Admiral Kethvar stood with his hands behind his back, watching the small yellow star grow larger. His red eyes moved across the data pad in his clawed hands. Another new species had been found, another world to add to the great empire. "Sir, we have the report on the new species," said his assistant, a young officer with green scales. "They call themselves humans." Kethvar looked at the information. The humans lived on the third planet from their sun. They had only one world. Their ships were slow and used old fuel systems. They fought wars among themselves over small pieces of land and different ideas. "Primitive," Kethvar said. His voice was cold. "How many ships do they have in space?" "Very few, sir. Maybe 20 or 30 small vessels. Nothing that could fight our ships." Kethvar nodded. This would be easy. For 300 years, his people had taken over worlds like this. Small species that had just learned to fly between planets. They never fought back for long. A show of power, maybe destroy a few ships, and they would surrender. Then they would work for the Empire like all the others. "Send the order to the fleet. We will make contact in the standard way." Far away, on the human ship called New Horizon, Captain Lisa Bennett was having the best day of her life. She stood on the bridge of her ship, looking at the screens that showed empty space around Jupiter. But it was not empty anymore. "Captain, we are getting something on the sensors," said her science officer, a young man named Danny Foster. "It's big, really big." Lisa felt her heart beat faster. For months, they had been looking for signs of other life in space. The people of Earth had sent her ship to explore, to find answers to the old question, were humans alone? Now they had their answer. "How big?" Lisa asked. "The ship is 10 times larger than ours, and Captain, there are more ships with it, at least 50 of them." Lisa took a deep breath. This was it, the moment that would change everything for the human race. First contact with beings from another world. Open a channel, all frequencies. The communications officer, a woman named Kelly Wright, worked at her station. "Channel open, Captain." Lisa straightened her uniform. She knew that millions of people on Earth were watching through their ship's cameras. History was being made. "This is Captain Lisa Bennett of the Earth ship New Horizon. We come in peace. We seek friendship and knowledge. Please respond." For long minutes there was nothing. Then the main screen came to life. The face that appeared was not human. Red eyes, green scales, and teeth like knives. But Lisa smiled anyway. This was the dream of every human who had ever looked up at the stars. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Galactic Empire," the alien said. His voice was hard. "Your species is now part of our territory. You will surrender your ship and return to your world. Ships will come to take control of your planet." Lisa felt her smile fade. "I'm sorry. I don't understand. We came here to talk, to learn about each other. There is nothing to discuss. Your species is primitive. You will serve the Empire or be removed. These are your only choices." The human captain felt something cold in her stomach, but she kept her voice calm. "We are peaceful people. We don't want to fight, but we also won't be slaves. Perhaps we can find another way." Kethavar's red eyes grew angry. "You dare to refuse the Empire? Your small ship is nothing. Your whole world is nothing. Submit now or face the consequences." On Earth, in the Defense Council meeting room, General Marcus Stone watched the conversation with growing fear. Around the table, the leaders of Earth sat in silence. They had hoped for this day for so long, but not like this. "General," said President Nancy Adams, "what are our options?" Marcus looked at the screens showing the alien fleet near Jupiter. 50 ships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. Against that fleet, we have no options. Our best warships are still being built. We have maybe 10 ships that could fight, and they are not even close to that size. Back on the New Horizon, Lisa was still trying to find a peaceful solution. "Admiral Kethvar, our people have much to offer. We are good at solving problems, at building things, at learning. We could be partners, not servants." "Your offer is refused," Kethvar said. "You have 1 minute to surrender your ship. After that, we will take it by force." Lisa looked around her bridge. Her crew of 30 men and women looked back at her. These were the best people Earth had to offer. Scientists, explorers, dreamers who had given their lives to reaching the stars. Now they might die among those same stars. "Captain," Danny said quietly, "we could run. Our engines are faster than theirs for short distances." Lisa shook her head. "If we run, they will know we are afraid, and fear is not the first message I want to send from the human race." She turned back to the screen. "Admiral, we cannot surrender. We came here in peace, but we will not be slaves. If you want our ship, you will have to take it." Kethavar's face showed surprise. In 300 years, no primitive species had ever refused the Empire. "Very well, you have chosen death." The communication ended. On the screens of the New Horizon, the alien ships began to move. Energy weapons that could destroy cities began to charge up. In a few seconds, the first human ship to meet aliens would be nothing but dust and metal. Lisa opened the ship's communication system. Her voice would reach Earth, but the message would take 40 minutes to arrive. By then, she and her crew would be dead. "This is Captain Lisa Bennett to Earth. We have met other life among the stars. They are not what we hoped for. They want to make us slaves. We have refused. In a few moments, our ship will be destroyed. But remember this, we came in peace and we stood with honor. The stars are not empty, and the beings who live here think they are better than us. Prove them wrong. For all of humanity, prove them wrong." The first energy blast hit the New Horizon and cut through its hull like paper. The second blast destroyed the engines. The third blast hit the bridge where Lisa and her crew were standing. Captain Lisa Bennett died with her eyes on the stars she had loved since she was a child. Her last thought was of Earth, and the people who would have to face what was coming next. On his ship, Admiral Kethavar watched the human vessel break apart. Another primitive species had been dealt with. Soon, ships would go to their world and the humans would learn their place in the galaxy. But as he watched the pieces of the New Horizon drift in space, Kethavar felt something strange. The human captain had not begged. She had not cried. She had looked at death and chosen it rather than surrender. In 300 years of conquest, he had never seen that before. It was the first sign that the humans might be different. But Kethavar did not understand the warning. In 40 minutes, when the message from Captain Lisa Bennett reached Earth, the Admiral would learn what happened when someone made the mistake of killing humans who came in peace. The war was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the New Horizon died near Jupiter. 6 months since Captain Lisa Bennett and her crew became the first humans to die in space at the hands of aliens. Those 6 months had changed everything. Commander Ryan Clark stood on the bridge of the space station Defender 1, looking out at Earth below. The blue and white planet looked peaceful from up here, but Ryan knew better. Every factory on Earth was now making weapons. Every shipyard was building warships. Every man and woman who could hold a gun was learning how to fight. "Commander, we have movement on the edge of the system," said Lieutenant Amy Davis from her station. "Long-range sensors show 50 ships coming this way." Ryan felt his hands tighten into fists. "The same number that killed Lisa and her crew." "Yes, sir. Same ship types, too. They'll be here in 6 hours. Ryan opened the communication channel to Earth. "General Stone, this is Defender 1. The aliens are back." On Earth, General Marcus Stone was in the war room deep under the mountains of Colorado. 6 months ago, this room had been used for meetings about small conflicts between countries. Now it was the center of humanity's fight for survival. "How many ships do we have ready?" Marcus asked. 37 combat vessels," answered Colonel Kate Johnson. "Most of them are converted civilian ships with weapons attached. Only 5 are real warships." Marcus nodded. It was not enough. The aliens had better ships, better weapons, better everything. But humans had something the aliens did not understand. Humans had anger. Send the order to all ships. Make them pay for what they did to the New Horizon. In space near Earth, the human fleet waited. Commander Ryan led 12 ships around the main space station. Captain Troy Adams commanded 8 ships near the moon. Captain Beth Williams had 10 ships hiding behind Mars. The rest were spread out through the solar system. The alien fleet came just as the sensors had predicted. 50 large ships in perfect formation. They moved like they owned the space around Earth. Admiral Cathvar was leading them again, confident that the humans would surrender when they saw his powerful fleet. Human vessels, Cathvar's voice came over the communication system. You will stand down and allow us to land on your planet. Resistance is useless. Ryan's answer was simple. This is Commander Ryan Clark of the Earth Defense Force. You killed 30 people on the New Horizon, people who came to you in peace. Today, you pay for that. Cathvar felt surprised again. These humans still refused to surrender, even when facing certain defeat. Very well. Destroy their ships. The battle began with the aliens firing their energy weapons at the human ships. The first human vessel, a converted cargo ship called the Freedom, took a direct hit and exploded. Then another human ship died and another. But the humans kept fighting. And Admiral Cathvar began to notice something wrong. The human ships were not trying to win. They were trying to hurt the alien fleet as much as possible before they died. Captain Troy Adams flew his ship straight at an alien vessel, ramming it at full speed. Both ships exploded, but the alien ship was much bigger and more important. Sir, said Cathvar's assistant, the humans are using suicide attacks. They're not trying to survive. Cathvar watched as another human ship rammed into one of his vessels. The humans were fighting like wild animals, like creatures that had nothing left to lose. But the strangest thing was their weapons. The human ships were using old-style kinetic weapons, metal projectiles fired at high speed, simple, primitive weapons that should not work against Empire shields, except they were working. Why are their weapons penetrating our shields? Cathvar demanded. His science officer looked confused. Sir, our shields are designed to stop energy weapons. These kinetic projectiles are passing right through them. Commander Ryan smiled grimly as he watched his ships score hit after hit on the alien vessels. Dr. Karen Wright had been right. The aliens had advanced energy shields, but they had never fought anyone who still used simple bullets and missiles. All ships, focus fire on their engines, Ryan ordered. Keep hitting them with everything we have. The battle raged for 2 hours. The humans lost 25 ships, but they destroyed 8 alien vessels and damaged 15 more. When the alien fleet finally retreated, Admiral Cathvar was shaking with anger and confusion. How? He asked his officers. How did primitive humans hurt us this badly? No one had an answer. On Earth, the news of the battle spread quickly. The aliens had retreated. Humanity had won its first victory against the Empire. But everyone knew the aliens would be back with more ships. General Marcus stood before the leaders of Earth. We hurt them today, but they will return with a bigger fleet. We need to be ready. President Nancy Adams looked tired. General, our factories are already working at maximum capacity. Our people are training as fast as they can. What more can we do? We need to think like humans, not like the other species the aliens have conquered, Marcus said. They expect us to fight fair. They expect us to follow rules, but humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know that in a fight for survival, there are no rules. Dr. Karen Wright stood up. She had been working on alien technology captured from the destroyed ships. I've been studying their systems. Their technology is advanced, but it's also predictable. They've been using the same designs for centuries. They don't innovate, they don't adapt. What does that mean for us? Asked the president. It means we can learn their weaknesses, and we can build weapons they've never seen before. 3 months later, the aliens returned. This time, Admiral Cathvar brought 200 ships. He was sure that such a large fleet would make the humans surrender. He was wrong. The humans had spent 3 months preparing. They had built new weapons, new ships, and new defenses. But more importantly, they had learned to fight dirty. When the alien fleet arrived at Earth, they found that humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Asteroids had been fitted with engines and explosives. Space stations had been converted into fortresses. Even the space junk orbiting Earth had been turned into weapons. What is this? Cathvar asked, as his sensors showed thousands of objects moving toward his fleet. Sir, the humans have weaponized everything in their system. Every piece of rock, every satellite, every piece of debris is now a missile. The battle was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. The humans did not fight ship to ship. They swarmed the alien fleet with thousands of small attacks from every direction. Asteroids smashed into alien ships. Space stations fired missiles while pretending to be destroyed. Human fighters appeared from hiding places throughout the system. Captain Troy Adams was flying again, this time in a new ship called the Vengeance. He led a group of fighters in an attack on the alien flagship. As his ship was hit and began to die, he sent one final message. For Lisa Bennett and the crew of the New Horizon. We do not forgive. We do not forget. His ship slammed into the alien flagship's bridge. Admiral Kethvar died in the explosion, along with most of his command staff. The alien fleet broke and ran. Of the 200 ships that had come to conquer Earth, only 60 escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured by the humans. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets, but in the government bunkers, the leaders knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would send more ships, bigger fleets, more advanced weapons. General Marcus Stone stood before the cameras to address the people of Earth. Today we won a great victory, but the war is not over. The aliens will return, and they will be angry. We must be ready. We must be strong. And we must remember that we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of all humans to be free. In Yes, the depths of space, the surviving alien ships sent their message back to the Empire. For the first time in 300 years, a primitive species had not only fought back, but had won. The Empire's response was swift. 1,000 ships began moving toward human space, but they did not know that the humans were already preparing for them. Dr. Karen Wright had new weapons ready. General Marcus had new plans, and every human in the solar system was ready to fight to the death. The real war was about to begin. Far away on the Empire's capital world, the Emperor himself read the reports from Earth. A primitive species had destroyed over half of a conquest fleet. It should have been impossible. Send 10,000 ships, the Emperor ordered. End this human problem once and for all. But as the orders went out, the Emperor felt something he had not felt in centuries. For the first time since he had taken the throne, he was not sure of victory. The humans had changed the rules of the game, and no one knew what they would do next. Admiral Grace Turner stood on the bridge of the warship Retribution, watching the alien world grow larger on the screen. It was a small planet with green oceans and purple continents, home to 3 million aliens who had supported the Empire's attack on Earth. 2 years had passed since the Empire's failed invasion of the human solar system. 2 years since humanity had decided that defense was not enough. Now human ships traveled between the stars, carrying war to those who had brought war to them. Admiral, we are in position, said Captain Dan Miller from his station. All ships report ready for attack. Grace nodded. Around the alien planet, 30 human ships waited for her command. They were not the converted civilian vessels that had defended Earth. These were purpose-built warships, designed by humans who had learned to hate. Begin the attack. The human fleet opened fire on the alien world, but they did not target military bases or government buildings. They targeted the power plants, the communication centers, the transportation systems, everything that kept the planet's civilization running. On the planet's surface, the aliens ran in panic. They had heard rumors about the humans, but they had not believed them. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were not supposed to have ships that could travel between stars. Colony Administrator Veltar sent desperate messages to the Empire's capital. We are under attack by human forces. Request immediate assistance. The response came back quickly. No help available. All fleets are defending core worlds. You are on your own. Veltar felt his scales turn cold. The Empire was abandoning them. In space above, Admiral Grace opened a communication channel to the planet. This is Admiral Grace Turner of the Human Space Force. Your world supported the invasion of Earth. Your factories built weapons used to kill humans. Your people cheered when our ships were destroyed. We had no choice, Veltar replied. The Yasimi Empire forced us to help them. Maybe that is true, Grace said. Her voice was calm, but there was something frightening in it. But the humans you helped kill had no choice either. Captain Lisa Bennett had no choice when your weapons killed her crew. The human ships continued their attack. But they were careful. They destroyed military targets and industrial centers, but they avoided civilian areas. The aliens began to understand that the humans were not trying to kill everyone on the planet. They were trying to send a message. "What do you want from us?" Veltar asked. "We want you to remember," Grace replied. "We want you to tell every alien in the galaxy what happens when someone attacks Earth. We want them to know that humans do not forgive. We do not forget. And we never stop." The attack lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, the planet's military was destroyed, its factories were rubble, and its government had collapsed. But most of the civilians were alive. "Admiral," said Captain Miller, "we have destroyed all strategic targets. What are your orders?" Grace looked at the planet below. Part of her wanted to finish the job, to make sure this world could never threaten humans again. But that was not the human way. "We leave. But first, we leave them a gift." The human ships dropped cargo containers on the planet's surface. Inside were medical supplies, food, and construction materials, enough to help the survivors rebuild their world. "Why?" Veltar asked over the communication channel. "Why help us after what you did?" "Because we are not the Empire," Grace answered. "We do not kill for pleasure. We kill because we must. Remember that when you rebuild. Remember that humans could die, have destroyed your world, but chose mercy instead." The human fleet left the system, but the message spread quickly through the galaxy. The humans were no longer hiding in their home system. They were hunting the Empire's supporters, striking without warning, and showing a combination of ruthlessness and mercy that confused and terrified alien leaders. Colonel Peter Brooks led a different kind of war. His special forces teams operated behind enemy lines, appearing on Empire worlds like ghosts. They would strike military targets, capture important prisoners, and vanish before the Empire could respond. On the industrial world of Kepler-7, Peter and his team infiltrated the main weapons factory. They spent 3 days placing explosives throughout the complex. When they detonated the charges, the explosion could be seen from orbit. But before they left, they released all the alien workers who had been forced to build weapons for the Empire. They gave them transport ships and safe passage to neutral worlds. "Why do you do this?" asked one of the freed workers, a small alien with blue fur. "We are not humans. Why do you care what happens to us?" Peter looked at the alien. "Because slavery is wrong, whether the slaves are human or not." The Empire's leaders began to panic as human attacks spread throughout their territory. They had expected the humans to stay near their home world, easy to contain and eventually defeat. Instead, human ships appeared everywhere, striking at will and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Emperor Zorak called an emergency meeting of his war council. Around the great table sat the leaders of a dozen different alien species, all part of the Empire's military machine. "How are the humans doing this?" Zorak demanded. "How can one primitive species challenge our entire empire?" General Thax, a large alien with gray skin, answered carefully. "Your Majesty, the humans fight differently than any species we have faced. They do not try to hold territory. They do not try to build an empire. They exist only to cause us pain." "Then we will cause them pain in return," the Emperor said. "Order all fleets to attack human worlds." "Your Majesty," said Admiral Corex, "the humans only have one world, Earth, and it is too well defended. We have already lost 3 fleets trying to attack it. Then we will build a bigger fleet, 1,000 ships, 10,000 ships, whatever it takes to end this human threat." But even as the Emperor gave his orders, more bad news arrived. The humans had attacked the Empire's main shipyards. A fleet of 50 human vessels had appeared at the Centaurus system and destroyed every ship under construction. Captain Helen Martinez had led that attack. Her ship, the Vigilant, had been the first to break through the shipyard's defenses. In the space of 2 hours, the humans had set back the Empire's ship production by 5 years. "Admiral," Helen reported to Grace Turner, "the shipyards are destroyed, but we captured something interesting." On her ship's screen, Grace saw a small alien with large eyes and green skin. Unlike the other Empire species, this one looked afraid, but not angry. "I am Dr. Zethan," the alien said. "I was forced to work in the shipyards. I have information about the Empire's plans." Grace studied the alien carefully. What kind of information? The Emperor is planning to use forbidden weapons against Earth. Weapons that could destroy your entire planet. Grace felt ice in her veins. What weapons? Planet killers. Bombs that can crack a world in half. The Empire has 3 of them, hidden in secret bases. Grace immediately sent the information to Earth. Within hours, human intelligence teams were locating the secret bases. Within days, human strike forces were moving to destroy them. The attacks on the planet killer bases showed the galaxy something new about human warfare. When their home world was threatened, humans fought with a fury that shocked even their enemies. At the Vega base, Captain Roy Stevens led 100 human Marines in a ground assault. The base was defended by 1,000 Empire soldiers and automated defenses that could stop an army. The humans attacked anyway. They used tactics that the Empire had never seen. Small teams that moved like wolves, striking quickly and vanishing, explosives that turned the base's own defenses against it, weapons that the aliens did not understand and could not counter. When the battle was over, the base was destroyed and the planet killer was rubble. But Roy and half his Marines were dead. Was it worth it? Asked his second-in-command, Lieutenant Sarah Kelly, as she looked at the destroyed weapon. Roy, dying from alien poison, smiled. One less weapon that can hurt Earth. Yeah, it was worth it. The other 2 planet killer bases fell the same way. Human soldiers died to destroy weapons that could have killed billions of people on Earth. Each base cost dozens of human lives, but not one human hesitated when given the mission. News of the attacks spread through the galaxy. The humans had not just defended themselves. They had hunted down and destroyed the Empire's most powerful weapons, paying in blood to protect their home world. Other alien species began to take notice. The Keltorian Republic, the Zephyr Alliance, and the independent worlds all sent secret messages to Earth. They wanted to know if humanity would help them fight the Empire, too. Ambassador Claire Morgan read the messages in her office on Earth. She was humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy, though she had never set foot on an alien world. Her job was to speak for humans to beings who were only now learning to fear the human name. General Stone, she said over the communication system. We have requests for alliance from 16 different species. They all want our help against the Empire. Marcus Stone, now promoted to Supreme Commander of all human forces, thought carefully. What do they offer in return? Technology, resources, safe passage through their space, and information about Empire weaknesses. Marcus smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Accept the alliances, but make it clear that we are not their servants. We are their partners, and partners treat each other with respect. Fleet Admiral Nick Carter stood in the command center of the massive space station that humans had built at the edge of Empire space. Through the viewing windows, he could see the largest human fleet ever assembled. 500 warships, ready for the final attack on the Empire's capital world. 3 years had passed since the war began. 3 years since Captain Lisa Bennett died, trying to make peace with aliens who only understood force. Now, humanity was ready to finish what the Empire had started. Admiral, all fleet commanders report ready, said Captain Luke Harris from his communication station. The assault can begin on your order. Nick looked at the holographic display showing the Kronos system. The Empire's capital world was defended by over 2,000 ships and orbital weapons platforms that could destroy planets. It was the most heavily defended system in the galaxy. But Nick had something the Empire did not expect. He had information. From Dr. Steve Rogers, humanity's head of biological warfare. Captain Harris, patch me through to Dr. Rogers. The scientist's face appeared on the screen. Steve looked tired and older than his 40 years. The work he had been doing weighed heavily on him, but he knew it was necessary. Admiral, the biological agents are ready for deployment, Steve said. But I want to make sure you understand what these weapons will do. Nick nodded grimly. I understand, Doctor. Are they targeted specifically? Yes. Each virus is designed to attack the nervous system of specific alien species. The Saurians will lose motor control within hours. The Cathari will fall into permanent sleep. The Zephyrs will experience complete memory loss. And the effects are permanent? Steve looked even more tired. Yes, Admiral, but the weapons only affect those species. Humans and our allies will be completely safe. Nick felt the weight of command on his shoulders. The weapons Steve had created were terrible, but they were also necessary. The Empire had forced this choice on humanity when they killed the crew of the New Horizon. Deploy the weapons, Doctor. It's time to end this war. On the capital world of Kronos Prime, Emperor Zorak received the reports with growing fear. Human ships had appeared at the edge of his system, but they were not attacking yet. Instead, they were releasing strange pods into space. What are those pods? Zorak demanded from his military advisors. General Thax studied the sensor readings. Unknown, Your Majesty. They appear to be releasing some kind of gas or particles into space. Are they weapons? We do not know. Our ships are investigating. But within an hour, the effects began to show. Empire ships throughout the system started reporting crew problems. Saurian soldiers collapsed at their posts. Cathari officers fell asleep and could not be awakened. Zephyr pilots forgot how to fly their ships. Your Majesty, General Thax said, his voice shaking, whatever the humans released is affecting our people. Our crews are becoming unable to function. Zorak felt panic rising in his chest. How is this possible? How can they target specific species? Dr. Zethan, the alien scientist who had been captured by humans and later released, stepped forward. He had returned to Kronos Prime with disturbing news about human capabilities. Your Majesty, the humans have been studying our biology for 3 years. They have created weapons that target our genetic weaknesses. This is beyond anything we thought possible from a primitive species. Can we counter it? No, Your Majesty. The weapons are already in our systems. Within 12 hours, most of our forces will be unable to fight. Emperor Zorak felt his empire crumbling around him. For 300 years, his people had ruled the galaxy through superior technology and ruthless force. Now, a species they had considered primitive was destroying them with weapons that seemed like magic. Send a surrender message to the human fleet, Zorak ordered. Your Majesty. General Thax looked shocked. You heard me. Offer them our surrender. Maybe they will show mercy. The message went out to the human fleet, but Admiral Nick Carter's response was swift and harsh. Emperor Zorak, this is Fleet Admiral Nick Carter of the Human Space Force. Your offer of surrender is rejected. You had the chance for peace when Captain Lisa Bennett contacted you 3 years ago. You chose war instead. Now you will face the consequences of that choice. What do you want? Zorak asked desperately. Justice, Nick replied, for every human who died because of your empire's actions, for every species you enslaved, for every world you destroyed. Today, your empire ends. The human fleet began its attack on Kronos Prime. But this was not like their previous raids. This was total war, designed to completely destroy the Empire's ability to make war ever again. Commander Beth Williams led the first wave of fighters through the orbital defenses. The Empire's weapons tried to stop them, but most of the operators were unconscious or unable to function properly because of the biological weapons. All fighters, target the planetary defense grid, Beth ordered. Make sure nothing can threaten our capital ships. One by one, the massive defense platforms around Kronos Prime went silent. Some were destroyed by human weapons. Others simply stopped working as their crews became unable to operate them. Captain Janet Lee commanded the ground assault forces. Her job was to capture the Empire's leadership alive, to put them on trial for their crimes against humanity and other species. But as her troops landed on Kronos Prime, they found something unexpected. Many of the Empire's leaders had already fled. Emperor Zorak and his inner circle had escaped to hidden bunkers deep underground. Admiral Carter, this is Captain Lee, Janet reported. The palace is empty. Most of the government has gone into hiding. Nick's response was immediate. Find them. Use whatever methods necessary. They will answer for their crimes. The hunt for the Empire's leaders lasted for 2 weeks. Human Special Forces teams, supported by alien allies who knew the planet, searched every bunker, every hidden base, every secret facility on Kronos Prime. Colonel Peter Brooks found Emperor Zorak in a military bunker beneath the capital city. The once mighty ruler of the galaxy was hiding in a small room, surrounded by the few guards who had not been affected by the human biological weapons. Emperor Zorak, Peter said as his soldiers arrested the alien leader. You are under arrest for crimes against humanity and numerous other species. Zorak looked at the human soldier with confusion and fear. "What will you do to me?" "That will be decided by a court," Peter replied. "A fair trial. Something you never gave to the billions of beings your empire enslaved or killed." As news of the Emperor's capture spread through the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. World after world that had been part of the Empire declared independence. Species that had been enslaved for centuries rose up against their former masters. The Keltorian Republic announced that it was joining the Human Alliance. The Zephyr worlds declared their freedom from Empire rule. Even some of the Empire's core worlds began negotiations with human representatives. Admiral Grace Turner, now commanding the occupation forces on Kronos Prime, received reports from throughout the galaxy. "Admiral Carter, the Empire is collapsing faster than we expected. 47 systems have declared independence in the past week alone." Nick nodded with satisfaction. "Good. But we need to make sure this never happens again. The galaxy needs to understand that slavery and conquest are no longer acceptable. Dr. Steve Rogers stood trial on Earth for his creation of the biological weapons. The trial was broadcast throughout human space and to allied worlds. Steve did not deny what he had done. "I created weapons that specifically target alien biology," he testified. "I did this knowing that these weapons would cause permanent harm to enemy soldiers. I did this because the alternative was watching Earth burn." The judges, both human and alien, deliberated for 3 days. Their verdict was unexpected. "Dr. Rogers, while your weapons were terrible, they were also necessary to end a war that threatened the existence of humanity and the freedom of many other species. You are found guilty of creating weapons of mass destruction, but you are sentenced to community service rather than prison. You will spend the rest of your life helping to heal the damage caused by this war." Steve accepted the sentence with relief. He had been prepared to go to prison for his actions, but the chance to help heal the galaxy was more than he had hoped for. Emperor Zorak's trial was different. He was charged with genocide, slavery, and crimes against countless species. The evidence against him filled thousands of files and included testimony from beings across the galaxy. When asked for his final statement, Zorak looked at the human judges with something that might have been respect. "I underestimated your species," he said. "I thought you were weak because you sought peace. I thought you were primitive because your technology was inferior to ours. I was wrong. You are the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever seen. Not because of your weapons, but because of your will to use them when necessary." The court sentenced Zorak to life in prison. He would spend his remaining years in a human facility, thinking about the empire he had lost and the war he should never have started. General Patricia Davis, now the military governor of former empire. Territories worked to establish new governments on liberated worlds. It was difficult work, as many species had to learn how to govern themselves after centuries of imperial rule. 10 years had passed since the war ended. 10 years since the last Empire ship had surrendered to human forces. The galaxy was a different place now, and Admiral Carol Thompson could see the changes every day from her office on New Geneva Station, the diplomatic center of human space. Through her window, she watched ships from dozens of different species dock at the station. Keltorian traders bringing rare metals from their mining worlds, Zephyr artists carrying sculptures made from crystallized light, Terran merchants with goods from Earth's rebuilt factories. All of them flew under the protection of human law. All of them knew that any ship bearing human identification codes was safe from pirates, slavers, and would-be conquerors. "Admiral, we have a situation in the Vega sector," reported Captain Helen Martinez from the communications center. Helen now commanded the patrol ship Vigilant, one of hundreds of human vessels that kept watch over the trade routes. "What kind of situation?" Carol asked. "Pirates have been attacking cargo ships near the old Empire border. The local authorities requested our help." Carol nodded. "Send the 7th Fleet. And Helen, remind the pirates what happens to those who threaten peaceful commerce." "Yes, Admiral. They'll get the message." Carol smiled. Over the past 10 years, that message had become very clear throughout the galaxy. Attack a ship under human protection, and human warships would appear within days. The pirates and raiders who had once terrorized the trade routes had either reformed or died. On Earth, the memorial to Captain Lisa Bennett and the crew of the New Horizon had become a place of pilgrimage for beings from across the galaxy. The simple stone monument bore the names of the 30 humans who had died in humanity's first contact with alien life. Ambassador Robert Lee stood before the memorial with a group of young alien students who had come to learn about the war. One of them, a small being with blue fur and large eyes, raised her hand. Ambassador Lee, why did the humans fight so hard? Other species had been conquered by the Empire without such resistance. Robert looked at the memorial, thinking about his answer. Because we had something to fight for. The Empire saw us as another primitive species to be cataloged and controlled. They never understood that humans measure their strength not by their technology, but by their willingness to sacrifice everything for their principles. But so many humans died in the war, another student said. Was victory worth such a cost? The cost of victory was high, Robert agreed. But the cost of defeat would have been our freedom, our dignity, and our right to exist as free beings. Some things are worth dying for. In the Keltorian Republic, President Zalmar was meeting with his military advisors about a border dispute with the Hegemony Remnant, a small group of former Empire worlds that had reformed into an aggressive confederation. They have been building warships again, reported General Kothra. Our intelligence suggests they plan to attack our outer colonies. What are our options? Zalmar asked. We could ask the humans for help, suggested Admiral Velthos. One human fleet would be enough to discourage any attack. Zalmar considered this. The Keltorians had been allies of humanity since the war, and human protection had allowed them to rebuild their civilization. But he also knew that calling for human help carried its own risks. When humans came to solve a problem, they solved it completely. If the Hegemony Remnant was threatening Keltorian worlds, the humans might decide that the Remnant should not exist at all. Send a message to Admiral Thompson, Zalmar decided. Inform her of the situation, but make it clear that we are requesting consultation, not intervention. The response came back within hours. Admiral Thompson would send a small diplomatic mission to meet with both sides and try to resolve the dispute peacefully. But she also made it clear that if the Remnant attacked Keltorian worlds, humanity would consider it an act of aggression against a human ally. The Remnant leaders decided to negotiate rather than fight. Captain Dan Miller commanded the patrol, Ship Guardian, one of the human vessels that monitored the former Empire's borders. His ship was small compared to the massive dreadnoughts that had won the war, but it carried something more powerful than weapons, the reputation of the human. Space Force. Captain, we are receiving a distress call, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Davis. A civilian transport is under attack by unknown raiders. Plot an intercourse course, Dan ordered. Maximum speed. When the Guardian arrived at the scene, they found a Zephyr passenger ship surrounded by 6 raider vessels. The raiders were demanding cargo and threatening to sell the passengers into slavery. This is Captain Dan Miller of the Human Space Force, Dan broadcast on all frequencies. You will cease your attack immediately and withdraw from this system. The raider leader's response was defiant. This is not human space, human. Your authority means nothing here. Dan's reply was calm but cold. Human authority extends to the protection of innocent life everywhere in this galaxy. You have 30 seconds to withdraw before we open fire. You are 1 ship against 6. You cannot defeat us. You're right, Dan said. I cannot defeat 6 ships by myself. The raider leader began to laugh, thinking the human was admitting defeat. Then his sensors detected energy signatures appearing throughout the system. But I am not by myself, Dan continued. 20 human warships materialized around the raiders, having jumped in from hyperspace at Dan's call. The raider vessels were surrounded by firepower that could destroy a small fleet. I repeat, Dan said, withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The raiders fled without another word. Dr. Karen Wright, now the director of the Galactic Medical Research Institute, worked with scientists from dozens of species to develop new treatments for diseases that affected multiple species. The biological weapons she had helped create during the war had taught her much about alien physiology. Doctor, we have made a breakthrough in treating Keltorian nerve disease, reported her assistant, a young Zephyr scientist named Lithara. Excellent, Karen replied. What about the Saurian bone plague? Still working on that one. But the human antibiotics seemed to be having some effect. Karen smiled. It felt good to use her knowledge to heal rather than harm. The war had required terrible weapons, but peace allowed for wonderful discoveries. On the former Empire world of Titan V, General Marcus Stone supervised the final phase of the reconstruction project. The planet had been a military base during the Empire era, home to weapons factories and training centers for Imperial soldiers. Now it was becoming a center for education and culture. The weapons factories had been converted to schools. The military bases had become research centers. The parade grounds where Empire soldiers had marched now hosted festivals celebrating the diverse cultures of the galaxy. General, the last of the military installations has been converted, reported Colonel Kate Johnson. Titan V is officially a civilian world. Marcus nodded with satisfaction. Good. How many former Empire worlds have completed reconstruction? 87 out of 112. The remaining 25 should be finished within 2 years. Any resistance to the changes? Some, but nothing we cannot handle. Most former Empire citizens are grateful for the opportunity to build peaceful lives. In the maximum security prison on Luna, Emperor Zorak lived out his days in a comfortable but isolated cell. He was allowed books, entertainment, and even visits from scholars who wanted to study the rise and fall of his empire. Today's visitor was Dr. Amanda Foster, a human historian writing a book about the war. "Do you regret your actions?" she asked, the former emperor. Zorak thought carefully before answering. "I regret underestimating humanity. If I had understood what your species was capable of, I would have approached first contact differently." "Would you have chosen peace?" "Perhaps. Or perhaps I would have tried to destroy you before you became a threat. It is impossible to know." Amanda studied the alien's face. "Do you believe humanity has been fair in its treatment of former Empire citizens?" "More than fair," Zorak admitted. "My empire would have enslaved your entire species. You conquered my empire and then rebuilt it as something better. You showed mercy when you could have chosen vengeance. Why do you think we made that choice?" Zorak was quiet for a long moment. "Because you are not like us. You fight when you must, but you prefer to build rather than destroy. It is perhaps your greatest strength and your greatest weakness." In the neutral zone, the area of space that had once been the Empire's core territory, Captain Troy Adams led a humanitarian mission to help refugees from the war. Many beings had been displaced when the Empire fell, and it was taking years to resettle them all. "Captain, we have another refugee convoy requesting escort to the Keltorian Republic," reported his first officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kelly. "How many ships?" Troy asked. 15 vessels carrying approximately 10,000 beings. Mostly Saurians and Zephyrs who lost their homes during the fighting. Troy nodded. "Set course to intercept. And Sarah, make sure they know they are under human protection. No one will harm them while we are on duty." As the years passed, stories of human intervention became legend throughout the galaxy. Tales of human ships appearing to save civilians from pirates. Stories of human diplomats preventing wars before they could start. Legends of human doctors healing diseases that had plagued alien species for centuries.